Hello, so now we're going to be looking at number-based conversion. How do we convert from a number base to another? Say you're given a number in base 3, how do we convert it to say base 6 or base 8? Let's get started. So first, we're going to be looking at converting from base 10 to another base. So if you are given a number in base 10, how do we convert this number to another base? So this is just achieved through two simple steps. And the procedure, the first one is you have to divide the number by the base you wish to convert to using long division. And the second step is you have to write out the remainder in reverse order. Now this next example will clarify what I'm trying to talk about. So now let's look at this example which is convert 27 in base 10 to another number in base 3. So now what is the first step? It says we have to divide the number by the base we wish to convert to. So we need to divide the number using long division by the base we wish to convert to, in this case 3. So 3 in 27 will give me 9, and what is the remainder? 0. 3 in 9 will give me 3, and what is the remainder? 0. 3 in 3 will give me 1, and what is the remainder? 0. Then 3 in 1, 0, and what is the remainder? You just write it out. So now as you can observe, our aim is to keep on dividing till you get to 0. So now you get to a point in which the number is less than the divisor. In this case, at this point, 1 is less than 3. So at that point, when you try to divide, it will automatically terminate to 0, and the remainder will be that number that you had here. So that is what you have here. And the second step says you should write out the remainder in reverse order. So you start from the bottom and you write up. So when you do that, you have 1, then you have 0, 0, 0. So you have 1, 0, 0, 0 in base 3. So 27 in base 10 is equals to 1000 in base 3. Now let's look at another example. In this example, we are told to convert 5046 in base 10 to base 8. So what do? First, we divide using the long division as we know. So we have 5046 and we are dividing by 8. So when you divide this by 8, 8 in 50, you are going to get 6, 48 left with 2. In 24, you get 3, then in 6, impossible, so you have 0, and the remainder is going to be 6. 8 in 630 is going to give you 78, and the remainder is going to be 6. 8 in 78 is going to give you 9, and the remainder is going to be 6. 8 in 9 give you 1, and the remainder is going to be 1. And finally, we have gotten to that point in which the remaining number is less than divisor. So now 8 in 1 will just give me 0, and the remainder will be that number, which is 1. Now what is step 2? Step 2 tells us to write the number out in reverse order. So I start from the bottom and I have 1, 1, 6, 6, 6 in base 8. So 5046 in base 10 is equals to 11666 in base 8. So that is all you need to know when converting from base 10 to base 8. So now, how do we convert from another base to base 10? So if you are given a number in say base 3 or in base 4 or 5, how do we convert to base 10? So the procedure is you start from the unit number, then you multiply by the original base in increasing power. Basically, what we are trying to say can be explained with this formula. So let's consider a number that has digits x, y, and z to the base of n. n can be any number from 2 to 9. I want to convert to base 10. So what we do is that we start from the unit tens, which is z, and we multiply it by the base n to the power of 0. Then we take the tens term, which is y, multiply by the base to the power of 1. Then we take the hundred term x, multiply by n to the power of 2, then we sum up those products. So as you can see, the power of n, which is the base, is in increasing order. This next example will clarify exactly what we mean. So now I want to convert 211 in base 3 to base 10. So how do we go about this? So as I have said, we start with the unit number. So we have 1, then we multiply by the base to the power of 0, multiply by 3 to the power of 0. Then we move on to the next digit, which is 1, multiply by the base to the power of 1, and move on to the last number in this case, which is 2, multiply by 3 to the power of 2. So what will this result in? This is 2 times 3 squared is 9, then plus 1 times 3 plus 1 times 1. As you know, anything raised to the power of 0 is 1. So 2 times 9 is 18, then 1 times 3 is 3, and 1 times 1 is 1. So you have 22. So 211 in base 3 is 22 in base 10. I can choose to write the base number here or leave it. Anyways you write the answer, it still means the same thing, as you should know. So let's try to look at another example. In this case, we want to convert 1264 in base 8 to base 10. So really we do the same thing. We start with the unit tens 4, and we multiply it by the base number to the power of 0. Then move on to the next term 6, multiply by the base to the power of 1. Then move on to the next term there 6, 2, multiply by 8 to the power of 2, and move on to the last one there 1 times 8 to the power of 3. Then we add everything together. So 8 raised to the power 3 is 512. That is 8 times 8 times 8, then times 1 will give you 512. 8 squared is 64 times 2 give you 128, and 6 times 8 is pretty straightforward. You have 48, and you know anything is past 0 is 1, so 4 times 1 is 4, and when you sum these numbers together, we are going to have 692. So 1264 in base 8 is 692 in base 10. Now we are going to consider fractional numbers. So how do we deal with fractional numbers? So let's say we have a number xyz dot abc to the base of n, and we want to convert it to base 10. How do we go about this? Now, as you will know, we have dealt with the whole number part in the previous example. In this case, we talked about x, y, and z, and as you can see, is explained by this term that is already given here, the term before the decimal point. So you have z times n raised power 0, then n raised power 1 times y, then n raised power 2 times x. So how do we deal with the decimal point? So what we just do is we similarly decrease the power of n. As you can see, there is a steady decrease in the degree of n. Here you have 2, you have 1, you have 0. Then starting from the first decimal point, the next digit, you have n to the power of minus 1. Then you have b, n to the power of minus 2, and c, n to the power of minus 3. And to recall, you should know that n raised power minus 1 is the same thing as saying 1 raised to power n. So n raised power minus 2 is the same thing as 1 over n squared. So similarly, n raised to power any number, let's say minus x, will just be equals to 1 over n raised to power x. So I hope you remember this. Now let's try to solve only one example. So we are told to convert 10.011 in base 2 to base 10. So this should be simple, pretty straightforward. So now we have talked about how to deal with the whole number part. So to deal with this part for the decimal point, so we just say the unit term 0 times 2 raised power 0, then plus we have 1 times 2 raised power 1. So that is all. Then we'll move on to the decimal point. Starting from this, we now decrease the degree of the base. So we have plus, next term there is 0, this 0 here. So we have 0 times 2 to the power of minus 1. Then next term now is the 1. Then you have 1 times 2 to the power of minus 2. Then finally we have the last one over there, this one. We have 1 times 2 to the power of minus 3. So what do we have here? 2 raised power 1 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 0 times anything is 0. Then plus 0 times anything is 0. Then plus 1 times 2 raised power minus 2, which will be 2 raised power minus 2. Then plus 1 times this will give me 2 raised power minus 3. And as you know, all this just accumulates to give me 2 plus, and as I've explained, 2 to the power of minus 2 is 1 over 2 squared, and that over there will be 1 over 2 cube, which is equals to 2 plus 1 over 4 plus 1 over 8. And if you find your LCM, this is same thing as saying 2 number 3 over 8, or in decimal point, this is same thing as 2.375. So this is how you deal with decimal points when you are trying to convert from other base to base 10. Now finally in this topic, we are going to be looking at how to convert from non-base 10 number to another non-base 10 number. So let's say I'm given a number in base 5, and I'm told to convert it to base 7. So how do I deal with situations like this? So the first step is I have to convert the number to base 10. So what do I do first? I convert the given number to base 10. And we have seen how to convert from any number to base 10. So once I've accomplished that, then I convert the equivalent base 10 to the desired base. So I now convert the equivalent base 10 to base 7. So as you can see, base 10 just serves as the reference point. So I convert first to base 10, then I convert from base 10 to the desired base. So let's look at one example to explain that. Now this example says convert 72 in base 6 to a number in base 3. If you've been following very well, you will observe there is a mistake with this question. So I want you to look at this question, particularly this number, and figure out what is wrong. Now if you have figured it out correctly, you will realize that there shouldn't be a 7 here, because when dealing with base 6, numbers can only range between what? 0 to 5. So you cannot have a 7. So this question is actually a mistake. What is meant to be here is base 8. So how do I convert 72 in base 8 to base 3? So what does the procedure tells us? It tells us to convert 72 in base 8 first to base 10, and when we are done converting it to base 10, then we can convert back to base 3. So that is what we'll do. How do we convert? So the first step, we want to convert 72 in base 8 to base 10. Now you should know how to do this. So how do we go about this? We just multiply by the base, the increasing number power of the base. So we have 2 times 8 raised power 0, then plus 7 times 8 to the power of 1. 7 times 8 give you 56. Then 2 times, if 8 power of 0 give me 1, 2 times 1 is 2. So this is equals to 58 in base 10. So 72 in base 8 is 58 in base 10. So the second step is to convert from 58 in base 10 now to base 3. And how do I do that? If you remember, I use the long division. So I have 58 divided by 3. So 3 here goes 1, I have 2. 3 in 28 will give me 9, and the remainder is what? 1. Then 3 in 18 in 19 will give me 6, then the remainder is 1. 3 in 6 will give me 2, and the remainder is 0. And finally 3 in 2 will be 0. And now that 2 is greater than 3, I just write the remainder here 2. Then I write out this number in reverse order. So I have 2011 in base 3. Therefore 72 in base 8 is equals to 2011 in base 3. So far I've been able to look at how to convert from one base to another. First, we talked about how to convert from a base 10 to another base. Then we'll talk about how to convert from any other base to base 10. And we now talked about how to deal with fractional numbers and how to convert from non-base 10 numbers to non-base 10 numbers. So what I will advise for you to do is to go through this and try to look for questions, past questions that are relating to what I've talked about and try to solve them. So in the next topic, we are going to be looking at some past questions that has to do with number base.